If you're serious about FPL and want to win your mini leagues, you need to have a chip strategy. Luckily, I have got one for you no matter who you are, what your team looks like, and what chips you have remaining. Yes, welcome to FPL Mate. My name is Dan, and we have gone through everything with the new information, and we're going to talk about everything you need to know with chip strategizing for the rest of the season. I think you're going to like this one. I'm very proud of this video. So guys, coming up in today's video, we're going to talk about the double and blank game weeks that we know about for sure. We're then going to have a look at some doubles and blanks that we are predicting with various degrees of accuracy. We're also going to look at the best weeks for each chip. And then finally, we're going to have a look at chip strategies, taking all of the information, putting it all together. And I've got 3 chip strategies that I think will work for 99% of FPL managers and a few miscellaneous strategies for the other 1% as well. And I can't stress enough, guys, no matter what chips you have left, what your team looks like right now, we have genuinely got you covered in this video. This is going to be a very important watch. So stay tuned, stick with me, let's get going. So, of course, guys, we have the updated calendar in front of us right now with all of where the blanks and doubles are going to be. And I want to take you through it and just give some more information, some more context of what we are looking at right now. So for starters, we've got some confirmations now, and that's the double game week in Gameweek 25, which is like right now. So Liverpool and Aston Villa both will have a double game weeks. Liverpool will face Wolves and Aston Villa during this week, and Aston Villa will face Ipswich and of course Liverpool within this double game week. So just the 2 teams with a double in 25. Can we take advantage of that? Maybe. Certainly if you've got some Liverpool players there, and we'll talk about chips as well. For Game Week 29, we also now know that we have a confirmed blank game week. So there is going to be at least 2 teams who blank have 0 fixtures within Game Week 29. The confirmed teams are Aston Villa and Liverpool, and of course Newcastle and Crystal Palace. We are highly suspecting that they will have no fixture in Game Week 29 either. In fact, the only way that Newcastle and Crystal Palace can play within Game Week 29 is if both of these teams get knocked out of the FA Cup before the quarterfinals, both teams. So that is pretty unlikely, but there is still a possibility that the Newcastle Crystal Palace fixture can be moved within Game Week 29 a little bit later on after the international break. But super low chance. I think for now, we need to assume that Aston Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle and Crystal Palace will all have no fixture in Game Week 29. They will all blank. Game Week 33, we also are 99% sure is going to be a big double game week and the biggest double game week of the season. There is a chance of Newcastle versus Crystal Palace also being rescheduled into this double game week if none of Newcastle, Crystal Palace and Ipswich reach the FA Cup semi-finals. So we could see a maximum of 10 teams doubling here, but more likely, I think we're looking at 6 to 8 teams doubling in Game Week 33, which will be the most in any individual game week. I think previously some people were maybe thinking that Game Week 36 would be the big double. I certainly thought that there was a chance that it would be quite significant earlier on in the season, but based on new information, I think everyone is coming around to the idea that Game Week 33 is going to be the big double now. Game Week 36 is also a possible double game week. It is not going to be 100% this one, but it is pretty likely. If Newcastle versus Crystal Palace is unable to be rescheduled into Game Week 29 or Game Week 33, then both of those teams will double in Game Week 36 instead. There is a chance of some of the doubles that I think will play in 33 will be moved into 36, but there's not really a strong reason to do that. So I think Game Week 33, big double. Game Week 36, now going to be a smaller one. So let's go into a few more of the reasons why this is happening. So there is very good reason to believe that any team, any Premier League team that reaches the FA Cup semi-final and their scheduled opponents in Game Week 34 will blank during that game week. So for example, if Liverpool make it to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, them and whoever they play in Game Week 34 will have no fixture in Game Week 34. So this means a maximum of 8 teams blanking if there are 4 different teams reaching the FA Cup semi-finals. All of them are in the Premier League, and all 4 of their oppositions are also not, also not in the semi-finals, if that makes sense. There's a maximum of 8 teams there. These blanking fixtures are very likely to be moved into Game Week 33, creating this big double game week for a maximum of 8 teams, or if you include Newcastle and Crystal Palace, that brings us to a maximum of 10 teams doubling in 33. And I think there's really good precedent now for this to happen. Now, the key thing to note here is that the double in Game Week 33, the teams that double in Game Week 33 will be the same teams that blank in Game Week 34, considering the fixtures from 34 are being moved backwards into Game Week 33. So you're going to need to make a quick transition between one very specific set of players who double in Game Week 33 and then remove all of those players in Game Week 34. And that's going to be very difficult to do without the use of a chip. So what about Game Week 36? Well, based on current information, there isn't really much of a need for a significant double game week in Game Week 36. The unscheduled Newcastle versus Crystal Palace fixture still has a good chance of going in here if one of these teams reaches the FA Cup final, but it is far from a guarantee. There's also a chance that Newcastle versus Ipswich is moved into Game Week 36 if only Crystal Palace get knocked out of the FA Cup and Newcastle versus Crystal Palace is rescheduled into Game Week 33. There are also some very small unlikely possibilities, scenarios if the Premier League decide to do something weird. That would also create small double game week in Game Week 36, but not really worth considering at this point. It is more likely that this week is kind of going to serve as an emergency double game week slot for unforeseen circumstances. If a game is called off due to weather, for example, Game Week 36 is where those fixtures would be moved into. Now, my prediction is that either 0 or 2 teams will double in Game Week 36. I think that is the most likely outcome based on what we know right now. So we've spoken about the double game weeks, the blank game weeks, and that forgotten Game Week 36, which has really been downgraded based on recent information to a small double. But let's talk about chip strategy next. I think this is really important to go through which weeks are the best for each chip. And I think we start off here, and this is going to be the biggest challenge in this FPL season, and that is that big transition we mentioned before between Game Week 33 and 34. Remember, the teams that double in 33 will be the same teams that blank in 34. You need to make that quick transition in squad composition. This is probably the most important thing to remember for the rest of the season. Therefore, it is going to be recommended to use a free hit or a wild card in Game Week 34 to navigate this situation. That way, you can have all of your double game week players in Game Week 33 and easily remove them in Game Week 34 by using a free hit or a wild card. Now, I do prefer a free hit to offer that temporary solution. And a big reason for that is if you use a free hit in Game Week 34, you get to keep all the players that you had in Game Week 33. And the teams that are doubling in 33, a lot of these teams are going to be the best teams. These are the teams that reach the FA Cup semi-finals. You know, this is going to be Liverpool's and Man City's and maybe Chelsea in there and whoever else. Forest, Bournemouth, I don't know. There's going to be some good teams reaching the semi-finals. And you're going to want to have players from these teams in your squad from Game Week 35 onwards. So if you just free hit in Game Week 34, it deals with that situation quite nicely. But that's not to say you can't also wildcard in 34. There is a possibility for that to work as well. So Game Week 33 is primed for the bench boost. And I think it's likely to be the biggest double game week of the season, as we've mentioned. Now, compared to other chips, the bench boost chip really benefits from large quantities of double game week fixtures. You can easily get 30 fixtures in your squad if you plan well for this. 15 players in your squad. The bench boost means you get your bench players, obviously, so 15 players. If each of them play twice, you get 30 fixtures in one game week, where usually you get 11 fixtures in a game week. So this is pretty huge. You could maybe use this chip elsewhere if you wanted to, but there isn't really another clear option that will work for everyone. Game week 33 for a bench boost, I think will work for everyone if, as we predict, this is the biggest double game week of the season. We then come to this game week 29 to 30 period, and it's going to be another smaller challenge to navigate blank 29. It's going to be easier than the game week 34 blank, but it it's still going to cause some issues. So, how are we going to do this? Well, particularly if you have a lot of Liverpool, Newcastle, Crystal Palace and Aston Villa players, who are the teams who are going to blank, most likely, in Crystal Palace and Newcastle's case. If you've got a lot of players from Liverpool and Aston Villa in particular, and of course those other teams, it's going to be difficult to deal with Game Week 29. So we can resolve this in two ways. We can either use the free hit in Game Week 29 instead for that quick and easy fix, or you can use your transfers now, between now and Game Week 29, to, I guess, reset your, get your team looking good in Game Week 29, remove those blank Game Week players, and then wildcard in Game Week 30 to reset your squad back to normal. Everything looks good again. You could also delay your wildcard until Game Week 31 or Game Week 32 if you quite like your your team, even with a lot of those blank players removed. You could postpone it a little bit, but Game Week 30, prime for a wild card. Game Week 31 and 32 are also definitely a possibility to navigate this particular period of time. The biggest benefit in using your wild card in Game Week 30 to 32, however, is that it fully prepares you to maximize your points potential in double Game Week 33 with a bench boost. You can use your wild card during this period from Game Week 30 to 32 and bring in 15 players who you will, by this point, know will have a double game week in Game Week 33. 15 players who double, 30 fixtures, as we mentioned. So that's going to be really nice to use the wild card to prepare and set up for that one. So again, I do prefer the wild card in 30 and no free hit in Game Week 29. So that leaves Game Week 25 and 36, the two other doubles here for the assistant manager and triple captain chips, if you haven't used them already. These chips are going to benefit less from larger double game weeks. You only really need one good team to have a double game week, and you've got an opportunity for your assistant manager or triple captain. Now, I do prefer the assistant manager chip in Game Week 25 if you haven't used it already, since it is a more important and more impactful chip. We have a guaranteed double here. We know exactly what we're guessing. The triple captain chip could also be used in Game Week 36, or could be used when Salah has a good single game week. For example, Game Week 28, Salah faces Southampton at home. So that could be another opportunity to use your triple captain chip there. So I think assistant manager, get it done in Game Week 25 if you haven't done already. Triple captain, I think there's a little bit more flexibility there on that one. And a quick note, guys, if you have already used your bench boost, then actually Game Week 31 becomes the prime assistant manager week. So you can cover Game Week 31, Game Week 32, and double Game Week 33 with your assistant manager chip without having your assistant manager chip active in blank Game Week 34. So yes, if you haven't used your bench boost, then you need to find a new chip to use in Game Week 33, basically. And that would involve using your assistant manager 3 weeks, 31, 32, 33. So let's cover the assistant manager very quickly before we look at the kind of big chip strategies, guys. And I think we have two choices here if we are going for the assistant manager in Game Week 25. There are two teams, two managers who have a double game week during this period, and that is Liverpool and Aston Villa, Slot and Emery. So if you are using your assistant manager chip right now, use it on Slot or Emery, and you will get from Slot, Wolves and Aston Villa in 25, Man City in 26, and Newcastle in 27. Not bad, not bad. You could maybe consider using another transfer on your assistant manager to switch a slot to someone else from Game Week 26. That could work quite well. That means you get the double in 25, and then you get another opportunity to use the assistant manager on someone else in 26 and 27. That works well. Or you could go for Emery, who faces Ipswich and Liverpool in Game Week 25. And I know Liverpool is a tough game, but he would be eligible for table bonus, which means, 5 extra points for a draw and 10 extra points for a win. Really, really nice. And you'll then have Chelsea in 26 and Game Week 27. You'll have Crystal Palace away. And again, maybe worth a transfer. Now, if you have already used your assistant manager in Game Week 24, using a transfer now might be worthwhile if you've got Moyes, for example. So if you've got Moyes as your assistant manager right now, you already activated that assistant manager chip, then switching to either Slot or Emery for the next 2 game weeks could be really nice. But in Game Week 26. I don't know if it's worth using 2 transfers on an assistant manager. Might be a little bit overkill there, but yeah, certainly there's going to be another opportunity for you to change up your assistant manager, get involved in Slot, get involved in Emery. This is the time to use the assistant manager chip, in my opinion. And guys, by the way, before we conclude with the chip strategies that I've got to recommend for you, please do make sure you do leave a like on the video. A lot of work, not just in making the graphics, but also thinking about all of these things has gone into this video. So I massively appreciate all of the likes and support on this video. Of course, if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you do subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to help you guys out through the rest of the season with chip planning. So here we go, the chip strategies, and this is going to be chip strategy number 1 for you, the balance strategy. And this is my favorite chip strategy to use, although I appreciate and respect that it's not going to work for everyone. But if you can use this strategy, I would definitely consider it. So this strategy involves going for the assistant manager in Game Week 25 if you still have it. If you don't have your assistant manager, or if you don't have your triple captain chip, it's no problem whatsoever. No problem. Although I should say, if you, I guess you could maybe use your triple captain in Game Week 28, but that's a different conversation. I want to try and make this as simple as possible. So Game Week 25, assistant manager, if you still have it. Between Game Week 25 and 29, you're going to use your transfers to prepare for blank Game Week 29. Between Game Week 30 and 32, you're going to want to use your wildcard to prepare for your double Game Week 33 bench boost. Then, of course, in Game Week 33, play the bench boost. Game Week 34, which is a blank game week, you use the free hit to navigate that one. And then in Game Week 36, if you still have your triple captain, you could potentially use it here as well. But like I said, you can maybe use it a little bit earlier on Salah versus Southampton if you wanted to. Now, the advantages to this chip strategy is it easily maximizes the points on all of the doubles. Game week 25, 36, and 33 and 36. All of these game weeks, you are fully covered to maximize the amount of points you get here. It also easily deals with the biggest blank of the season, Game week 34. You don't have to worry about that big blank anymore. You are covered with your free hit. And it works really well if you have 6 or less Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace players in your squad right now, because you're going to have enough free transfers between now and Game Week 29 to start removing a few of them, bench the other ones, and it's going to work pretty well. You're going to wildcard in 30 anyway, so it doesn't even matter if you sell players that you really like in Game Week 29. You can wildcard them straight back in. But there are a few minor disadvantages to this strategy. Now, first of all, you're going to need to spend the next few game weeks using transfers to plan for Game Week 29. And that also means that bringing in Aston Villa players for double Game Week 25 is going to be a little bit difficult. But given that they play against Liverpool in that double anyway, is it worth bringing in those Aston Villa players? Maybe. That's a different discussion. But certainly, you can't really do that as much because you need to save those transfers to navigate Game Week 29. But after that, you are in the clear. You may have a below average score in Game Week 29, but from 30 onwards, you are in an amazing position. So it is maybe sacrificing in the short term a little bit in order to have a really strong long-term strategy. Now, it will be difficult to use this strategy if you have 8 or more Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace players right now. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. How many players do you have from Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace? What is your total amount of players from these teams right now? Because I'd love to get an idea of what the average manager really has from those teams. Do you have a lot? Do you have not many? If you have not many, this strategy is going to work super, super well for you. But we can also look at the inverse of that, the chip strategy to the quick fix strategy. Now, this is going to involve playing your assistant manager in Game Week 25, if you still have it, free hitting Game Week 29, and between Game Week 30 and 33, you're going to use your transfers to prepare for double Game Week 33 instead. Game Week 33 is going to be your bench boost once again, and Game Week 34 will be your wild card to remove your blank Game Week 34 players. Of course, Game Week 36, triple captain if you still have it, if you want to. The advantages of this strategy is it's great in the short term. You can bring in that Aston Villa player for Game Week 25 if you want to, and still fully deal with the blank Game Week 29 issue. You should have a well above average score in blank Game Week 29. It also does deal with the blank Game Week 34 issue, but has a few restrictions to that, because obviously, you know, you're going to be removing players in your Game Week 34 wildcard that have blanks in Game Week 34. And there could be some quite good players in there that you want to keep long term, but can't because you're wildcarding there. So, you know, it is possible to navigate this. Don't get me wrong, it is. But yeah, there is a little restriction there. But this works really well if you have 8 or more Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace players. The disadvantages are you might find it a little bit more difficult to maximize your double Game Week 33 bench boost. It's going to be more difficult because you're using transfers alone. You're also more restricted on the wildcard picks in 34, as we mentioned. And I certainly wouldn't play this if you don't have many players from Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace. You don't need to use this strategy. You can navigate Game Week 29 easily without this strategy if you don't have many players from those teams. And then that brings us to the third strategy. And chip strategy number 3 is the no wildcard strategy. And I appreciate that some people have already used their wildcard, and that's totally fine. I want to make sure we've got everyone covered and figuring out solutions for you guys. And in Game Week 25, the assistant manager is there once again, if you still have it. Game Week 25 to 29, you're going to use your transfers to prepare for blank Game Week 29. In between Game Week 30 and 33, you're preparing for a double Game Week 33 bench boost, Game Week 33 bench boost, Game Week 34 free hit, because that is still going to be the most difficult game week to navigate no matter what chips you have right now. Game Week 34 is going to be the most difficult thing for everyone. And then finally, Game Week 36, triple captain, if you still have it. The advantages of this strategy are, well, you've already had your advantage. You've got to use your wild card a little bit earlier. And you also get to deal with the biggest blank of the season, Game Week 34, by saving your free hit for a little bit later. You also spend the next few game weeks trying to plan for Game Week 29, which is a disadvantage. You may have a below average score in Game Week 29, and you also may find it difficult to fully take advantage of double Game Week 33 as well. So it kind of has the worst of both worlds from the last 2 chip strategies. But if you have used your wild card, you know, there's going to be some sacrifices being made later on in the season because you already got that advantage when you did use your wild card, which is totally fine. Now, I would note, if you do still have your wild card, I would really not recommend using this strategy. I know some people are thinking about wild carding at some point between 25 and 29. So if you do still have your wild card, really would not recommend using it now and trying to navigate later, you know, freestyling it, because Game Week 34 is just going to be such a big problem for you. So yeah, another note, I guess, is that if you are thinking about free hitting in 29 but you don't have a wild card, I would say don't, because you're going to have some big problems in Game Week 34. So yeah, there we go. That is strategy number 3. There's a couple of more miscellaneous strategies that I did mention earlier. So let's have a look at those. So if you don't have a bench boost, Game Week 25 is now the prime triple captain slot here. Yes, no bench boost, no problem. Triple captain, Game Week 25, stick it on Salah. Beautiful stuff. Wolves, Aston Villa. Fantastic opportunity, arguably a better opportunity than last game week. Between Game Week 25 and 29, you can use your transfers to prepare for Game Week 29 and Game Week 30. Wildcard to prepare for double Game Week 33. But instead of bench boosting in 33, you're going to use your assistant manager in Game Week 31 instead, and finishing it off with a Game Week 34 free hit. Really, really nice there for those of you who have already used your bench boost. If no free hit, things do get a little bit more difficult, but you can still navigate this. Game Week 25, you use your assistant manager, if you still have it. Game Week 25 to 29, use the transfers to prepare for blank Game Week 29. Between 30 and 33, use your transfers to prepare for double Game Week 33. And Game Week 33 bench boost, Game Week 34 wildcard, and Game Week 36 triple captain. Hopefully that covers most scenarios. I know we don't have a chip strategy for literally every combination of chips there, but I think you've probably got most of the information you need. You could probably come up with your own stuff based on that. But one more note, for those of you without a wild card or a free hit, good luck. In all seriousness, guys, it is going to be far more difficult to put together a strategy if you have no wildcard or free hit, because a lot of the strategizing you do with chips is around the wildcard and free hit and preparing for different things in different ways. The other chips really can be used, I guess, whenever there's a double game week. Wildcard and free hit are for chip planning. All of the other chips, just play them in a good double game week, and it's pretty much as simple as that. So depending on what chips you have left, I think we hopefully have had you covered, whether it's been in this part of the video where we've spoken about the different strategies, or just looking at the individual game weeks, which are good for each individual chips. I really hope that we've got something for you in this video. And with that said, I would love to hear from you guys. Which strategy will you use? Which of the strategies that we discussed today do you think are going to be best for your scenario? And is there any other strategies that I have missed maybe that you're considering using? I'd love to hear some of your guys' ideas. Have I missed anything? I'm sure I haven't been able to think of everything, so maybe I have missed something, but hopefully not. Hopefully we've got everything pretty much tight and wraps up in today's video. But do let me know in the comments, guys, of course, what you are doing, which chip strategy you like the look of, anything I missed. And of course, I want to hear Liverpool, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa players. How many do you have in your team right now? Let me know in the comments. But that is going to be the end of today's video. Let me know what you thought about it. I hope it was super helpful for you guys, and do make sure you do leave a like before you go. It really does help out the channel so much. Do subscribe if you want to, and yeah, we're going to be back with videos for the next few days, all the way up until the Gameweek 25 deadline, so stay tuned for those ones, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye bye.